Lindsey here. Today we're making so much food in the kitchen, but we're going to start out with my grandma's yeast rolls. She makes these every year about Easter time, so it's about time for me to share this. But we're going to start with adding 2 packets of yeast into a bowl, and we're going to add a 1/4 cup of lukewarm water to that. And we'll also sprinkle a little sugar over that because it kind of helps it rise. That's our goal with this. We're going to let this rise and get a little fluffy. While we're letting our yeast mixture rise, we're just going to heat up 1 cup of milk to boiling and then add a stick of butter to let that melt in there. And we're going to let this cool back down. We're going to let our milk and butter mixture cool back down and add in 1/2 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 well-beaten eggs. And we do want to make sure that our mixture has cooled back down because you don't want those eggs curdling in there. Now you can see just how well our yeast mixture has fluffed up here. That's what you're looking for. And we're going to add that into our milk mixture and give that a good stir. Now we're going to add in 5 cups of all-purpose flour. I like to use King Arthur's, but you can use whatever you have on hand. And we're just going to give that a good mix and then turn it out on a floured surface and knead it until it's elastic. So you could also use a mixer with a dough hook. I just was too lazy to actually clean a mixer. I don't know why I feel like cleaning the counters better. I like to do this with my hands. But I think that it's about 50 to 60 turns as you're kneading. But you'll know by pressing your finger down into the dough and you want to see that come back out. the elasticity that you're looking for. You don't want your dent to stay in. I'm going to grease a bowl with a little bit of olive oil and place in my dough ball and put some plastic wrap over that and let it rise until it is double in size. And I can't tell you exactly how long this takes because it's going to be different for the season or the warmth of your house. If it's a little colder, you're going to want to put it in a warm place. If it's hotter, this is going to take place a lot faster. I believe this first proofing probably took 3 hours or so, but my house is very, very cold. But it did double in size. Now, I made a whole batch because I'm going to make it for dessert and rolls for dinner. So I just popped this in half so I can make some cinnamon rolls along with our yeast rolls. Now for the second proofing, what you're going to do is roll them out either to have rolls or cinnamon rolls. You're going to go ahead and make those up and then you're going to let them rise again. So for my rolls, I'm just going to knead this again. A few turns, probably a few less turns this time, so maybe, 10 to 15 turns. We're going to make sure that it's still really good and elastic, and then I'm going to section this out into pieces and make my rolls. You can make these rolls into any shape that you like. You can make them square. You can just cut them out into pieces. You could make them into little bunny shapes. I've seen people do those and they're awesome. But I just made little circular rolls. They weren't perfect, but they were delicious. So I just added these to a buttered sheet pan, and now I'm going to use some of that olive oil and put them over the top just so our plastic wrap doesn't stick, and these can sit somewhere and rise for a little while. The second rise doesn't take as long, and it's just till they've kind of doubled in size and they're puffy. I think mine took an hour, but like I said, my house is very cold, so that's probably why it took so long. And this dough makes excellent sweet rolls. I made cinnamon rolls personally, but you could add a jelly to this. I was thinking that my blackberry jelly with some orange icing would be amazing with these. That would be a really good breakfast idea. But I just rolled this out into the best rectangular shape that I could. It took me a little while because the dough is so elastic. It's just going to take a little bit to roll it out and get it thin enough. While I was rolling out my dough into a rectangle shape, I took about 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter and softened that up. And I'm just going to smear that on the top and then add my cinnamon and sugar in layers. I probably should have added a little bit more. I mean, it was still very, very good, but Jay likes a lot of cinnamon and sugar on his cinnamon rolls. So next time I will add a lot more cinnamon and sugar. Now I'm just going to roll these up. I'm not going to roll it too tight because we don't want them to come out of the middle once they rise. So I'm just going to roll it gently and pinch together the seam. And then I'm just going to kind of straighten it out and cut it in half. And then cut those pieces in half. And then cut those pieces in half. So mine ended up making 8 cinnamon rolls. Of course, if it would have been the entire batch, it would have been about 16 cinnamon rolls. So you can decide what you need. I just buttered up a cake pan and added my rolls to that, put a little plastic wrap over them and let them rise until they were big and puffy and touching. But you do want to make sure that you leave enough room in your cake pan for them to rise, because they will rise. I set my cinnamon rolls aside and set up my Instant Pot. We're gonna make some Instant Pot roast. This is my favorite way to make roast. I just have a chuck roast here and I'm gonna use some steak seasoning. That's my preferred method to season these. And I'm gonna put it on pretty heavily and pat it in. I'm going to set my Instant Pot to sear and add a little butter to the pot, and then I'm going to throw in my roast and let that get good and brown on all the sides. I'm going to even move it around to get the edges and everything. I want to completely seal that roast, and that'll keep in the moisture. I'm going to take 2 huge russet potatoes and kind of quarter them up, and sometimes the pieces are a little large, but I'm just going to make chunks of potatoes. Now, I never have an issue with my potatoes being way too soft. Some people do, but if you do have that problem, just leave your potatoes a little bit bigger. I know in the crock pot I used to have that problem where they would just get too mushy, and almost too mushy to actually eat. If you have smaller potatoes, you can also leave them whole, and that'll probably help. Now for my onion, I'm just gonna kind of chunk that up a little bit. It's just for flavor. And of course I have baby carrots, but if you have regular carrots, you're gonna wanna cut those up just a little bit too. For the layering, this is kind of how I layer mine so nothing gets mushy. I put in the onions first, those actually touch the bottom of the Instant Pot, and then I'll throw in my potatoes because they're bigger hunks, and I'll add the carrots on top. So basically they just kind of get steamed a little bit and they don't overcook. Some little pepperoncinis that needed to be used up in the fridge, so I added these to that, but this is completely optional. But I do like to add a cup of beef broth, or I didn't have any beef broth, so I used a cup of water and then a beef bouillon cube, and it worked just fine. Lid on, and we're gonna do manual pressure for 90 minutes. Now, when those are just about done, my yeast rolls are completely risen too. So we're going to set our oven to 350 degrees for about 17 minutes. I would check them about the 15-minute mark because they may be done. But I cooked them for about 15 minutes and they were perfectly golden brown and delicious. I like to go the extra mile and butter my tops with a little salted butter because it just makes it that much better. But look how gorgeous these look. They were so good. And the roast also came out pretty perfect. It was very tender. You can go a little longer or a little less, but depending on how you like it. If you like it a little more firm, then you can go just a little bit less. But I like the about 90-minute mark. It's kind of that perfect mix. And Jay likes his cinnamon rolls nice and hot. So once we got done with dinner, these were risen and ready to go. They also go into a 350-degree oven for 15 to 17 minutes. And while they were baking, I made up the icing, which is just 1 cup of powdered sugar, a few drops of vanilla flavoring, or whatever type of flavoring that you prefer. If you're making lemon rolls or orange rolls, you can switch that flavoring up a little bit. And then I add about a teaspoon of milk at a time to get the right consistency. Thicker is okay because it's going to melt a little bit once you put it on the cinnamon rolls. And these were the perfect doughy, flaky, sweet treat. I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and you'll try out a couple of these recipes yourself. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. I can't wait to chat with you down there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.